Even the best cyclists in the world like Tadej Pogacar can get things wrong, leading to missed performance potential. But what about you? Are you unknowingly making the same mistake with your Zone 2 training? You're putting in the long rides. You're thinking that you're building endurance. But what if I told you there's one critical error that could derail all of your hard work? And even the pros have made it. In this video, I'm going to reveal the single most important Zone 2 training mistake that even experienced riders fall into, and more importantly, how you can avoid it to optimize your endurance training and your long-term progression. By the end, you'll have the tools to adapt your training and avoid the same pitfalls, ensuring that every ride gets you closer to your peak performance. But first, let's take a closer look at Pogacar. Why did one of the best cyclists in the world have to evolve his training to get even better? His story highlights why adapting your training over time is so crucial and how easily you could be missing out on gains. Pogacar has had an incredible year, and regardless of any controversies, I'll focus on his training and preparation from a coaching perspective. And while I'm speculating here, there are lessons that all cyclists can take from this. One key reminder that I had this year is that a coach isn't solely responsible for an athlete's success. As a World Tour Performance Director taught me, the credit always goes to the athlete. However, different training approaches can yield better results at different stages of an athlete's development. For all levels of cyclists, this means it's possible to be undercoached or have a training approach that's no longer optimal. Pogacar's previous training led to incredible success, multiple Tour de France victories and classic wins, but as he developed, his training needed to adapt. And what worked in the past might not suffice now, and that's why Pogacar's shift makes sense. Here's the point. Zone 2 training, which Pogacar used extensively between 2019 and 2023, was instrumental in building phenomenal endurance. But based on his interviews, it seems his routine emphasized long, steady efforts, which, while beneficial, may not have developed his anaerobic capacity enough for the most critical race moments. So the takeaway? Zone 2 is essential, but over-reliance on one type of training can limit your performance. And that's why Pogacar's new coach reportedly introduced more interval work, VO2 max efforts, and targeted time trial training to develop other areas of his power curve, complementing his endurance base. So what's the key Zone 2 mistake that many cyclists make? Even elite athletes like Pogacar fell into this trap, letting their Zone 2 training become repetitive and stagnant. If Pogacar, one of the best in the world, needed to overhaul his training, imagine what you might be missing in your own routine. This is a major mistake because Zone 2 training isn't just about clocking hours or grinding through long, steady rides. It's about continuous adaptation. If you stick to the same intensity, duration, or conditions, you'll eventually hit a plateau. You need to make adjustments based on performance feedback and evolving your goals. I get asked all the time, how much Zone 2 training do I need? And the answer isn't straightforward. It's as much as you need to make adaptations, but not so much that you become fatigued or stagnant. Here's how to know if you're making this mistake. Think about where you are in your cycling journey. As you move from beginner to intermediate to advanced, your training must evolve. Have you changed your Zone 2 routine lately? Are you just following the same sessions week after week? You might only realize that you're under-optimized after making a change. Like, seriously. Who would have thought Pogacar had more room to improve? But what changes do you need to make? The key is in targeted adjustments. Small tweaks can yield big gains, just like how Pogacar's coach made subtle but effective changes in his training. For example, his coach introduced shorter crank lengths, heat adaptation, and refined his time trial position. These adjustments amplified Pogacar's power and endurance, especially on long climbs. The lesson here is that it's easy to think that your Zone 2 rides are good enough, but refining elements like posture, cadence, or incorporating techniques like heat training can help optimize your output and recovery, even in basic endurance rides. There are also smaller changes that you might not even realize that can make a difference. Things like pacing intervals for maximum impact, or training in different riding positions to simulate race conditions, or even using techniques like momentum control or adjusting your pedaling technique. Sometimes it takes a conversation with another rider or a coach to realize what areas you can tweak to improve. Here's the catch though. None of these adjustments matter if you're not tracking your progress effectively. Zone 2 training works when your body adapts over time, but if you're not measuring key metrics regularly, you might miss the signs of stagnation, or worse, fatigue. Take Pogačar again. His team had to have recognized subtle signs that his current training approach wasn't producing the same gains. And this is why regular testing and tracking is crucial to know if your training is actually working. Here's what you can do. Don't rely on just one metric, like lactate testing, for example. While useful, it doesn't tell the whole story. You might miss markers like heart rate variability, your power efficiency, or anaerobic capacity, all of which are critical for a well-rounded performance. So track your power output at a constant heart rate to see if you're improving. Use simple tests like fixed BPM or watts per kilogram benchmarks over time to check whether you're hitting new endurance targets. Leverage training software to gather data on how well you're adapting and use these insights to fine-tune your sessions. Here's the bottom line. Everything I've just told you is completely useless if you don't focus on the most crucial factor: adaptation over time. Your body changes, your goals evolve, and your training needs to evolve with them. If you don't fix this, everything else could be a waste of time. So here's what you can do now. Take a closer look at your Zone 2 training. Are you stuck in a routine, or are you making the necessary adjustments to keep progressing? Let me know in the comments what changes you plan to make, or if you're unsure, drop your question and I'll help you figure it out.